What's going on, everyone? I hope you all had a great weekend, but it's now that time to start prepping for the markets, and this week will be an exciting one. To start off, we have crucial inflation data releasing this week, which will definitely move the markets in a big way. It always does, and there's always big opportunities associated with this type of event. On top of that, we have the CEO of Nvidia starting to dump his shares. The last time he did this, he was pretty dang close to the top. And then on top of that, the NFL season is back in action, and some of these sports betting stocks are starting to move. So you better stick with us all the way towards the end of today's video. We have some awesome setups and predictions for this week. And on top of that, we have some important news you won't want to miss. But with that being said, Tom, let's jump right into it.
Yeah, last week was actually pretty flat and negative overall. So early on in the week, we had those pretty bad sell-offs, which was rough. But then Thursday and Friday, we really kind of went flat here, and the SPY started bouncing off of a recent trend line again, and we're holding that as of now. But this week is going to be so crucial, Mike, because obviously there's so much on the plate as far as the inflation data, the earnings. But I kind of want to get into some of these betting stocks here because, man, these stocks have been going crazy, and we've been talking about DraftKings and ESPN, MGM, FanDuel, all these betting stocks a lot over the past couple years, and more specifically, DraftKings is probably our favorite here. It's my favorite by far, but I'm sitting here watching DraftKings explode, and we're getting into the NFL season, Mike. It's awesome. We're finally kicking things off. It started on Thursday, of course, for everybody who's seen that. Obviously, that Tony guy is going to have some problems, but going forward, the betting is just going to cause more and more revenue to come in for these bookies, you could say. And, whenever I go look at DraftKings, Mike, they are on a pretty good uptrend, and they're actually about to reach recent highs again, around $33 to $34. So if we start to get a pretty good break here, that upwards trend from this year might be on a nice continuation. So I love to see it with the betting stocks, and it's just always cool to talk about the betting sector in DraftKings, especially when they're rising, 2% like on Friday. But man, Thursday's move was even better. From the low to the high, you're talking close to 5 or 6%.
Oh, yeah. So, there's a lot of sports betting stocks out there. DraftKings is among my favorite for sure, but, the whole industry is growing more and more and more and more every single day, especially with more states legalizing online sports betting. It's a money printing industry, and, it's something that you can't ignore, especially heading into this NFL season. DraftKings has been on a pretty solid uptrend over the past year. It went from $10. Right now it's all the way up to $32, but in the grand scheme of things, it still has a lot more room to run because its all-time high is around that $75 level that it made back in March of 2021. But keep a very close eye on this stock going forward. Some other sports betting stocks are MGM with BetMGM, CZR with Caesars betting, their betting platform. You have Penn National Gaming, PENN, that just had that deal with Disney to launch ESPN Bet. And this is supposed to launch in November, but just keep a close eye on all these stocks going forward.
Yeah, and I think that Bet ESPN that's set to launch in November is actually pretty interesting. I feel like we haven't been hearing too much about that lately, Mike. Ever since the deal anyways, it's been pretty quiet. We're only a couple months away from this potentially coming out. I can't wait for it. I think that ESPN is going to be a huge platform, and I will say I'm a pretty big investor into DraftKings, so I'm a little bit worried that Bet ESPN will start to steal a lot of the market share from these other players out there like FanDuel, DraftKings, and etc. because ESPN is just such a big sports platform. This would be it's almost like saying CNBC launches their own trading platform or something, That's kind of what I'm thinking here.
Yeah, I feel So, we're just going to have to monitor the market share of all these companies, quarter after quarter, and we'll make adjustments if need be. But good stuff there. But Tom, on a different note, while there's a whole lot of money flowing into these sports betting stocks, there is some big money flowing out of Nvidia. So Nvidia is a stock that Everyone knows by now, and if you don't know it, then you've been under a rock all year long. But looking at Nvidia, something pretty crazy actually happened this month so far, where their CEO started dumping shares of Nvidia. And while this CEO is worth, let's say, $43 billion or $40 billion, and he sold around $43 million so far this month, the point is that it's very, very rare to actually see him sell his shares at all. And when he does sell his shares, he's normally pretty good with the timing. So if we go to the charts, we can see that his most recent sale of Nvidia shares was on March 1st of 2022. It wasn't perfectly the top, but it was pretty close. If we go to his other recent sale, that was in the start of January of 2022, which was that middle blue circle, which was very close to the top. And then his third most recent sale was in December of 2021, which was basically right at the top. And when we really zoom out, we can see that while no one can predict the top perfectly, he does do a really good job at, selling at like short-term highs. So, looking at Nvidia right now, I know a lot of people are, at least a little bit set back from this.
Yeah, especially with how much Nvidia's ran up right here and how it's starting to fall down. We're at a big support around $450 even as well. That is awesome to see that he's starting to sell up here, Mike. And it's going to definitely give us more of a, I guess just it gives you more confidence to the downside, right? Because whenever these big insiders start selling, especially a CEO of a company, I mean, man, you definitely know that they probably are thinking something, and it makes sense, right? Because he's probably looking at the stock and saying, wow, we're up so much. If we have a little bit of a hard next few months, that's going to obviously drop us down quite a bit, maybe down to around 300 or something. So it makes sense that these big players would want to lock in up here. And I feel the same is just going to go for investors too. Like, imagine, Mike, if you've been buying shares of Nvidia around 120 to 200, you're up over 100, 200, 300% possibly by now. So looking at the way the stock's moving, I feel like there's just going to be a lot of profit taking coming in soon. And it's always good to follow those insiders because they usually have some pretty good knowledge. And that comparison to the past is pretty striking in my eyes.
Exactly. And what some people are saying is like, oh, this sale doesn't matter because he only sold $43 million worth of shares and his net worth is $40 billion. And, while that's completely true, like it's nothing to him. $43 million is nothing to him. But at the end of the day, a lot of times he does sell in clusters. So like, is this first sale just the beginning? Is he going to start dumping $43 million every couple weeks, every month? I don't know. But a lot of times he does sell in clusters. And at the same time, it's like, if $43 million is absolutely nothing to him, then why would you even sell to begin with? You know what I mean? So it's just an interesting situation to keep in mind going forward because this stock has such a giant role in the markets. And when you see the CEO selling shares, especially when he has a history of timing it pretty well, it's just worth keeping your eye on.
Yeah, especially as we're going into these big situations lately as well. We're starting to see inflation uptick, and we're going to have a lot of information coming up on that as well with all the inflation data and everything like that. And it's just that the overall market right now is pretty high, right? Like we've had one hell of a recovery this year, to say the least. Like even on SPY, the lows down around 350, got all the way up to 450 now within just this year. That's pretty good. So I'm definitely looking at the markets, looking for a bit more of a pullback to come in here, Mike, and especially out of those bigger tech stocks. Like Walmart might not fall down, right? But Nvidia is like way overextended compared to those other stocks.
No doubt about that. So while we have a bunch of money flowing out of Nvidia, we have a lot of money flowing into a different stock, and that is Anheuser-Busch, ticker symbol BUD. This is the parent company for Bud Light, and you guys just won't believe who's buying the dip on this company. Bill Gates made a nearly $100 million purchase on Bud Light. He's scooping up those shares, Tom, and I know a lot of people don't like this.
Yeah, I know. Bill Gates has taken a lot of flack lately, and he's doing this with Budweiser or Anheuser-Busch, as we should say, which is pretty insane. They've been going through all of that stuff with Dylan Mulvaney and all the backlash from all of that going on. And maybe it's smart, right? Maybe it's a smart time to buy it, honestly, while it's low. But at the same time, whenever you see somebody like Bill Gates getting in, it is pretty worrying. There's been a lot of talk about Bill Gates over the past few years. Let me know in the comments how you feel about him. Do you like him? Do you not? There's a lot of stuff where he's been to like Epstein's Island and was really good friends with those people, and there's a lot of conspiracies out there about this guy. So I don't know, Mike. He's definitely one of those influential figures where he definitely has more of a question mark over his head. Like I would say, like Elon Musk is like far and above Bill Gates here.
Yep, no doubt about that. So keep a close eye on ticker symbol BUD going forward. Either way, a $100 million bet is definitely nothing to ignore. But Tom, it's now time for some fun earnings plays for the week. What do we have on the schedule?
Yeah, it's actually looking fairly decent. Now, it's not a ton of stocks this week, but I will say there's some fun ones here. So we have Oracle reporting Monday in after hours and FCEL Monday in pre-market. I know a lot of people like those two. Really, that's honestly it, Mike, until we get on to Thursday where we see Adobe, Copart, and one that's interesting to me is LEN and HITI. High Tide is one of those marijuana stocks, so maybe keep them on the radar. They've been kind of flying up a lot lately too, but the big players this week are Adobe and Oracle, two huge tech stocks out there.
No doubt. I think like the top two stocks for the earnings week, in my opinion, are definitely Adobe and then Lenner, which is LEN. Both of which report on Thursday and after hours. Adobe kind of has like that like AI hype to it. It's nowhere near the amount of like, ticker symbol AI or like Palantir or stuff like that, but it does move off of that like AI news. And then the other one, Lenner, ticker symbol LEN, is like in the home building or home construction business. And with the way mortgages have been rising so much and just like everything going on in the housing industry and even more specifically the home building industry, it hasn't necessarily, like, it's been good, but like the past couple of weeks and like the past couple of months have started to see like a slowdown. And on top of that, we just saw, two big money put positions come into Lenner, which, obviously would profit if LEN falls. So I'm gonna have a close eye on this one, and I'm definitely leaning more towards the downside.
Man, Mike, I'll say I don't usually try to gamble on earnings, but you're tempting me with Lennar here. I'm not going to lie, with all the housing stuff going on. Now, obviously, if you're going to play something off of Lennar or something, calculate your risk. Don't go all in. It's going to be a very risky move if you do that. It could even be a good play for after the fact. But I'll say, Mike, with everything going on in the housing sector, if these earnings are bad, this thing could gap down pretty hard from where it's at, in my opinion. I could see it possibly maybe retesting 100 even if the earnings are bad enough.
Yeah, we shall see. But Tom, we also have a pretty exciting week on the economic schedule side of things. So we have crucial inflation data releasing Wednesday in pre-market. Basically, inflation data has been some of the most important economic data over like the past 3 years or so. It is so crucial. The Fed's war against inflation has not been won just yet. Basically, the scary part is that the last inflation data came in at 3.2%, which was higher than the one before that, and now it's expected to come in even higher, between 3.4 to even 3.6%. So, Tom, it's not necessarily the best of news, we can say.
Exactly, and it's so important right now. Everybody's going to be looking at it. The feds, the big banks, the institutions, the hedge funds. I mean, you're going to be seeing just everything out there going crazy Wednesday morning, 1 hour before the market opens. So if there's one piece of news to probably take from this video is that be very careful trading Wednesday. It's going to be a crazy day, or especially be careful holding any short-term options into there. But it's going to be big, Mike. And considering where the market is now, if we get a big scare and the SPY starts selling off again, maybe back under that 440 or 444 support, it could get brutal again. And I feel like we've only just now started to pull back a little bit.
Yeah, so we will see. But either way, stuff is about to heat up pretty quickly, especially on Wednesday, because that data is very, very, very important, and it's not too good right now, just being honest with you guys. But either way, be prepared for that. But Tom, it's now time to start talking about the fun stuff, which are some setups for tomorrow. One stock I'm watching very closely is the mouse. Disney. And I actually talked about this one on Thursday, and I said, you know, it's looking pretty solid for a bounce. And on Friday, it popped up in a perfect way almost all day long, and I'll tell you, I'm still watching it to the upside, so I'll be watching Disney pretty closely in a bullish way for tomorrow and the rest of this week.
Yeah, me too. It looks pretty good. It's really running in a big way. And, you know, Disney is one of those stocks that I feel like, especially as that bet ESPN gets closer, I think they'll start to get a lot more hype off of these lows. And that long-term support is no joke. I know we covered that quite a bit last week. With my first play, I'm going with Boeing again. I know I talked about this one also last week. And, man, it had a good move under 215 that was near perfect, and it sold off intraday in a crazy, crazy way Friday. So if we get under the key 210 support now, I will look at puts again, exactly like we did on Friday. Now, we might not get that same level of momentum on the break, but either way, keep watching it for a scalp. Going to the downside has been pretty good. And even better than that, we've been starting to break a key trend line down on Boeing, which has been playing pretty well lately.
All righty, good stuff there. Another stock I'm watching pretty closely is Tilray. Now, this is one of those crazy marijuana stocks, but, you know, it's still just been lurking in the background, but the volume and flows into this stock are still pretty strong. This stock moves a ton based off of any type of bullish news with, you know, marijuana legalization and all that stuff. So looking at Tilray, the more volume, the more momentum that it has, the better the chance that this thing can really go crazy. So I will be watching this one to the upside. Know that it is very volatile, and that's sometimes a good thing and sometimes it's a bad thing. It just depends on how you're playing it. But either way, this one's definitely on my watch list to the upside.
Yeah, I feel like these marijuana stocks could still go on some more runs here, especially if even more news starts coming out and etc. So I'll keep an eye on them as well. They're sitting right around that key $3 mark, which I've been a big fan that they're holding around there rather than rejecting. Oh man, Mike, and I'll tell you what, we've been talking about AMD and Nvidia a lot the past couple weeks to the downside, and I gotta hit on it again here. So we have that bad news with Nvidia's CEO obviously selling some shares again. That's terrible to see, right? And I would think if Nvidia starts taking a big downtrend, I would assume that AMD and a few other of these semiconductors might also follow them down a little bit more. So if I see AMD fall under 105 this week, I will look at it to the downside. That's a pretty big area of support. And AMD is one of those tech stocks that has been overextended. I will say, though, it's been dipping down quite a bit the past couple months. But I like that support, and I think if we break under 105, we could probably test 100 at some point this week.
All righty, sounds good. Well, it's now about that time for those momentum plays, and with the first one, we have Penn to the upside.
PENN with the sports betting here going on. If they can break above $22.30, go ahead and look at some calls. That's a pretty big intraday resistance.
All right, then with the next one, we have Zuckerberg, a.k.a. Meta, to the downside.
Oh, yeah, good old Zucky boy. They're under 300, so keep that in mind, guys. That sucks to see. If they break under 295, go ahead and look at puts.
All right, and then with the last one, we have Amazon for both directions.
Bezos is here. Okay, let's go ahead and make them break out above 140 to the upside. If you want to do a quick scalp on it intraday, you can maybe do a breakout above 139, but just keep in mind 140 is a pretty big area overhead. If they end up falling under intraday support right at 137.70, then go ahead and look at puts.
All right, so we have that downside level on Amazon for puts. We have the upside level for calls. And then don't forget about Meta with their downside level for puts as well. And then don't forget about Penn, PENN, to the upside with their upside level for calls as well. But it is now time for the big money $841,000 trade of the day. Today, we are looking at TVTX. I'm sure this is a company that basically no one has heard of before, but that can actually be a good thing when it comes to big money trades because, let's say you have, $841,000 worth of big money options trade go on to a stock like Nvidia. Realistically, it probably doesn't mean anything because, if you're trading that much like dollar volume per day on Nvidia, $841,000 isn't anything, just being realistic. However, And some of these companies that aren't as popular, it can be a lot easier to read these hedge fund trades. So basically what we have here is TVTX is one of those crazy biotechnology companies, and these types of stocks move a ton based off of news and drug approvals and a bunch of stuff like that. And long story short, someone's betting that this stock will go up. More specifically, they bought the 15 strike calls that expire on December 15th of 2023, and they shorted the 25 strike calls for December 15th of 2023. All day, they put around $841,000 into it. I know the trade might seem a little bit advanced because it's a call debit spread, but you can easily just trade calls if you want to make your life nice and easy, or even shares. But either way, it's something that is pretty interesting, and it's a stock I'll be watching pretty closely over these next couple weeks and months.
Yeah, and looking at the technicals on it, it seems like every time, at least the past couple years, or honestly, not even the past couple years, Mike, I'm on a weekly chart here. It seems like every time they get down to this $12 area, they start to kind of bounce back up, and they got really close to there again, and they're starting to recover. I mean, some of these recoveries off of this low level have been pretty insane. So I'll definitely keep my eyes on it. I'm not surprised that they're doing this with it being at support. And like you said, they might even know something. So keep it on the radar. It's going to be a fun stock. And it's always fun to follow the big money, Mike. I know this one's not a ton of money. It's only like 800 grand, but it's 800 grand going into a crazy therapeutic / pharma stock. And like Mike said, they can have some crazy moves on news. Let's actually go back to just a couple years ago. Look at that move in May on earnings, and then in August there. I mean, look at some of these runs that this stock has went on. It is no joke with the movement.
Exactly. And a lot of times these big money plays work pretty well when you just give them time. Of course, not every single trade works with big money, but, following hedge fund and big money trades overall is normally a pretty good idea, especially when done correctly. But, if you guys are new to the channel and you're not already subscribed, definitely subscribe. In every single video, we talk about a big money hedge fund trade just like this one. We also cover some of the best setups in the market every single day and relevant news that you just have to know about each day. So subscribe if you haven't already. When you do subscribe, you'll see our videos recommended to you more often, and why not join the Stocked Up crew, right? So definitely subscribe. But Tom, looking at the market this week, we are set for some pretty exciting events. We have the Nvidia CEO selling. We have the inflation report. We have some exciting earnings. We have the sports betting stocks running up. It should make for a pretty good week.
Yeah, it should. And, we're going to have the football going on too. So that even more good news for the sports bettors to maybe have us some fun stuff to watch too for the next couple days. But I know a lot of people have been talking about betting lately. So definitely keep those betting stocks on the radar. DraftKings, even Disney, like we talked about, could be fairly decent with Penn for that sector as well. And then obviously the inflation data is going to be so key, Mike, like we're talking about. Like we said, they're actually expecting that inflation data to go up again, which is not a good sign. That's going to maybe swing the Feds to do more rate hikes this year. So we'll have to see what they start talking about with rate hikes, Mike. But, anytime they mention the R word, oh boy.
Yeah, so it should be a pretty good week. Guys, go into the week with your heads up high. I know last week was definitely a little bit choppy and hard to trade, but this week's a new week. We have some exciting events, so let's crush it. Last but not least, I want to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Perdinator, in the Stocked Up Discord. You've been in the chat for over a year now, and you've been a very great member. Thank you so much for all of your activity and positive vibes. We really appreciate you. And guys, let's crush it this week. Thanks for watching.